Adam Haslett's Imagine Me Gone follows the effects of depression on a nuclear family from 5 family members' perspectives over time. It's definitely a downer, but is it a worthwhile bummer? Hi, I'm Amanda, and this is Spineless Books, your one-stop shop for all things audiobook. Adam Haslett's Imagine Me Gone was shortlisted for both the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award in 2016. Why? So, simply put, the writing is just beautiful. He does a fantastic job of describing the experience of dealing with depression. We see from many perspectives, several members of a family, over time, how depression impacts them. So imagine this. What is it like to have a depressed parent as a young child? What is it then like to grow into adulthood as that child with that parent? How does that relationship change? How is it impacted? How do all of the family dynamics revolve around this illness and this challenge? Now, many of us have experience, whether firsthand or through, acquaintances, of depression and its impacts. But Adam Haslett really captures unbelievable ways of looking at this that truthfully I had never thought about before. Now, I know my own perspective, but I don't know what it's like to be a child of a parent with depression or to be an adult who has a spouse with depression. So it's really an interesting way of looking at it. And I'm not saying by any means that Adam Haslett's perspective in this book represents all experiences with depression, because of course it doesn't. But it really made me think about the different ways that a single medical ailment, condition, personality, anything you want to think of, is impacting a family when so many people in that family are so very different from each other. So there are moments in this book that truly are unbelievably beautiful writing. There were a lot of moments where I wanted to back up and re-listen, or think about a passage a little bit and revisit it, or share something with a friend from this book. I kept stopping myself because Adam Haslett's writing is really engaging and really interesting, and there's just something almost poetic about it. It's hard to explain without actually sharing a passage. So let me share one of my favorite passages with you. If you think of memory not just as looking back, but as being aware of time and how it passes, and what the passage of it feels like, then there is something about being in motion that does cause it. Through some sleight of mind, physical forward motion makes time seem visible, which causes me to think that maybe the unnatural speed of cars and jets actually creates nostalgia, because the simplest way to block out the strangeness of time passing before your eyes is to fix it in place, to edit it down to monuments or potted plants. I think that's pretty impressive stuff. And honestly, this is a passage that I recalled in a conversation with a friend shortly after I read it. And I went back and I was like, let me double check if this passage was actually what I thought it was. And it was. So I really found myself impressed by many, many moments in this book. I think actually the thing that impressed me the most about this book was Adam Haslett's ability to write with voice. And here's what I mean by that. Imagine meeting a character when they're 5, 6, 7 years old, and them having a distinct voice at that age, and then growing up and becoming 18, 19, 20, and still having the same distinct voice, but appropriately adjusted for their age. To me, that's incredible. I'm always impressed when an author writes voice that's obvious without me having to hear different voices, but for a character to really grow over the years and maintain consistency while appropriately changing, wow, that's really impressive, Mr. Haslett. Gotta tell you. Now, Haslett made it easy for narrators Robert Fass and Ellen Archer, and truthfully, they kind of didn't have to do a lot of work because of how much the voice is written. Now, I think they do each attempt characters to a point. There is a little bit of changing vocal inflection to represent who you're speaking about, but they didn't really need to do that. It was very clear just by the speech patterns and the cadence. But I think if I had to say, Robert Fass pushes the male characters just a little bit further than Ellen Archer does the female characters. But that being said, nobody bothered me and everybody kind of carried their part the proper way. But again, Adam Haslett's his writing was the star. It wasn't really the narration in this case. I think you could have swapped out either of these narrators and basically had the same experience listening to this book. So at Spineless Books, I will never disclose spoilers without warning you. And I have to tell you, while I'm not going to give anything away about the plot of the book, please check your triggers with this one. There are a lot of things you already know it's about depression, but please double check, because if you are someone who is sensitive to triggers about certain topics, cross-reference and make sure you're not going to read something that's going to put you in a place that's going to upset you. Now, this book, I will tell you, while it was emotional and there were some moments that were really tough in it, it didn't really strike me aggressively like something like, for example, A Little Life did. A Little Life literally wrecked me. And this book was more of a thinker. There are sad moments, but it definitely made me consider the situation more than feel upset by the situation. But that may not be true for you. So double check your trigger warnings before you get into this book. So overall, I would recommend Imagine Me Gone by Adam Haslett. Now, it's not the most uplifting book, if I'm going to be honest. It is a little bit depressing, it is a little bit sad, but it really made me think. It made me think about different perspectives and the different way that people in the same household can be impacted by a single event or a single person. So I really did get something out of it. I don't know that I would go back and read it again, maybe for the writing more than the content, but remember, you might love what I hate and hate what I love, so make your own opinion. But thanks for listening to mine. See you next time.